Yo, welcome Flyffers to another advanced PvE guide. Today we want to showcase the Aoe Knight, and in this guide we want to cover all the way from level 90 to 120. But don't worry, if you're still level 1 to 90, there's already a beginner PvE guide that was released on the channel, and you should go check this out first before returning to this guide later on. Now, before we jump into the video, I noticed that only 20% of my viewers are actually subscribed to the channel. So let's make a deal. You watch this video all the way till the end, and I'm sure I earned your subscription by then. Let's get started. The Aoe Knight has a bit of a different build on higher levels compared to the early levels. On the early levels, you do need to have a whole bunch of stamina. In the later levels, you can already tank like the full spawns with only 90 stamina as long as your gear upgrades allow it to, and this will result in you being able to put a lot of points into strength and give you a really high AoE damage and fast kill speed. Since you are level 90, you should definitely have realized by now that ringmasters are insanely strong, and you should have a personal ringmaster with you at any times. And if you do not have like a group or a team setup that is providing you with ringmaster, make sure to at least level your own ringmaster to level 75 to have access to all the buffs and heal that you need for the AoE. Now let's take a look what current stat overviews for different levels should look like. At level 105, you should have about 17k health. Important here on the Knight is that you do want to have a decent amount of defense, so about 3.3k is pretty good, and a melee block range of about 35 to 40% is also decent and will result in you not having to need a lot of food as well while you're collecting. On level 120, you do want to have about 20k health, and other than that, nothing really changes. Though you have to make sure that you can maintain this health at any time, since you do not have any rescue or emergency buttons. This means you want to have a gold pill up, you want to have star candy, and probably heal at any time. Now, what should your gear look like when you are level 90 and trying to level up all the way to 105? This is the recommendations from the other guide. You do want to wear the Warpron set right here with the additional skill damage. Since you are now using that much strength already, this skill damage scales even better than it used to while you are leveling all the way to level 90. And since this is your endgame set, you can go for a plus 10 and 28% HP already without having to regret anything. And your weapon should be an historic big axe. It doesn't have to be plus 10, but it should be fairly close. And important is that you're putting +1 element at least on the weapon, at least, so you can benefit from the skill that we already talked about, the Empower Weapon Elemental Damage. Now, when you are level 120, your set will not change. You can keep the weapon set all the way, all along. It is best in slots, so you save a bunch of cash with not having to redo a set, and you save a bunch of time with not having to resell it. On the weapon, there's actually two viable options. I only showcased the legendary golden big axe since we are here in a high efficiency build that wants to deal a lot of AoE damage and not like a full tank version. And the legendary golden big axe is showcasing another 15 SDR to increase your AoE damage. Another viable option could also be a mystical big axe if you're more into like a full tank setup that also wants to tank dungeons and stuff like this. And as well, here you want to go for a plus 10 upgrade and 1 element due to the same reasons we already mentioned. What awakenings you need? This is pretty straightforward. You're only using one AoE skill, and this AoE skill is called Power Stomp. This is why you do want to have a Power Stomp damage percent awakening on your weapon. The max you can get is 25%, and I would actually try to go for at least like 20 plus. This will benefit you really hard, especially since we are on a high damage build with lots of SDR. All percentage damage scales really well for you. Now, for jewelry, this is a rare case here where Clockwork's jewelry can come in handy for the Knight. Since melee block rate is insane and Speedo plus 3 give you 10 block rate each, so you could have an additional 20% block rate over like 800 additional damage. So this is something that's up to you if you either want to be more defensive or dealing more damage. And this will also allow you to play a bit with your statting. So for example, if you're weighing 2 speedos plus 3, you can even go less stamina statted as well, just making sure that your stamina at least stays at like 15.5k health, so you can maintain the full healing of the gold pills. Important to notice then, if you're choosing to upgrade items, jewelry like here, make sure that you do not over upgrade them so you cannot wear them anymore, because different upgrade levels of jewelry have level requirements now to wear. If you do not know what the level requirements are, all the information are found in the upgrade guide on this channel. Now, let's finish it up with all the skills that are important. It is pretty straightforward. You do want to maintain, you're using axes, so basically you're using the X passive buffs as well as the empower weapon, which we talked about why you at least need +1 element onto the weapon. And then your main damage source is power stomp. And the good thing, or like which makes this so amazingly strong, is that it actually has a chance to stun the enemies nearby, and this will result in being able to tank a lot more. Then pain reflection is not the best skill, since you do have a bunch of melee block rage, which will result in the reflect damage not even proccing, or you will overall with your high defense not get as much damage as well. But having it running at all time doesn't hurt, since it does give you a tiny bit more kill speed overall. Now, the playstyle is pretty simple. You do want to collect as many mobs as you're able to tank with auto attacks. While you do this, make sure that you do not multi-hit those mobs. So this is why you want to need the attack motion. You go basically to the mob, click the attack motion. You can already move your mouse away from the mob, click on the crown, so you're actually doing only one attack. That is really important. Otherwise you will take tons of times to collect your AoEs. Then in the action slot you do want to register the power stomp right here. And since your main damage and your only damage is the skill, and it is FP dependent, I do recommend using an Activision and a Vital Drink X at any time. Of course, you can do it without Vital Drink X and use FP refreshers. This is just a bit annoying while you're AoEing. And if you're not using Activision, your DPS will significantly decrease, but it is still possible. Yeah, so now we are at the end of the video. I hope I earned your subscription by now. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And I would be happy if you drop by the streams on Twitch that are starting from the 14th of June and are headed done almost daily. Cheers.